Yo, okay, let me gather my thoughts, which are many. New moon in Taurus, 10 degrees, which is like a first step. It's what I'm getting, 10's new cycles, but this is the beginning of something else. Small steps, first steps. Also followed by an eclipse, which is really just quite amazing in its geometry. What odd, miraculous precision. But that is all the more why it becomes an intense period of time and an intense reckoning, whether or not we acknowledge it's within that period. The only thing in retrograde is Saturn still. However, Mercury is in its shadow period, which often feels much more like retrograde than the actual frickin' retrograde. And it sure can feel like it, can't it? New moon and the eclipse are also in Taurus, and I feel a lot of things are in Taurus, actually. Jupiter and Venus just kind of had some playtime in the sky, as well as with the moon. Jupiter's playing a really big part in all of this. Like, the speed with which, or the rapidness with which Jupiter is firing, continues to fire, always fires, in comparison with the Earth. Like, for as much as it's like long-term thinking, long-distance approaches, it's kind of off kilter. Like, it's very much, it is off kilter. It's just kind of being fueled by the heat and the energy. I think especially with Mercury and anything that, and the planets that are in Aries, and the way we reconcile fiery energy. But I mean, also very scientifically, Jupiter got its speed because it absorbed gas in the atmosphere or something like that. And I think that is very much about information and integration, and how overwhelming looking at change and seeing all of what needs to change can be. Like that can kind of get you carried away from the original goal, and again, kind of take you off your stability, which somebody was just talking to me about an air sign, and then this whole like digestion and integration thing came up again. I love air signs, but with all of the energy that is under Taurus right now, I absolutely think that we are being asked to ground in a real way. And ground, like, I feel like the zeitgeist, the culture, has created grounding under terms of consumption, in which case we're always like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need, this, I need one more fucking tuning fork, I need one more fucking perfect Instagram beverage, or something silly. And it's sort of the antithesis to grounding and integration. Consumption is the antithesis to grounding and integration. And that is a funny mask we've been shown in the world. I also think that there's an underlying stubbornness with how we approach that kind of stillness and integration within ourselves that on one hand, the energy with the shadow period and Jupiter kicking ass and being so fast, while also having all of this energy and, you know, a very Taurian nature, asking for raw joy, asking for innate joy, asking for simple pleasure. And here we are sort of constantly reinterpreting that in a very active energy. It's just all of what I'm getting. But there's also a lot going on for all of us. There's a lot going on for all of us. And it's very much facing off with my own stuff. Sorry, I just have like the planets today pulled up. Jupiter, Venus, Neptune, and Mars are all in Pisces. Like it's what's been going on in the weather. Like, it's beautiful one day, and then it's rain, and there's humidity, but it's like an empty coldness in the air. And that is very much the wantonness and the consumption, because we're all aching for something more. And the world has convinced us that it's outside of ourselves. The world has convinced us of many things. But we are all realizing a first step to understanding maybe a little bit deeper and more efficiently. In whatever way that does come up for you. Alright, let me not ramble because this has already been enough time. Alright, I'm going to pull some cards for this new moon and we will see what happens. Gosh, my hands are so sweaty. Which is all of that Pisces and all of that Taurian and all of that nonsense. Alright. Much like we are sitting here together, like I am reading for you, we're going to take 3 deep breaths together. All I ask is that you're open to receive. If you would like to be actively participating, just spine up, integral, and reach your hands out in front of you as if there are cards in between us. And when we take a deep breath in, on the exhale, we will imagine a shadow card rising into our fingertips, just to give you some visual goodness. Take a deep breath in, and exhale. Take a deep breath in, and exhale. Take a deep breath in, and exhale. Okay, fuck yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Okay, 100%, like, I just, like, it was like my hands wanted to come together, and I was given this reality of like, being on the inside of a tree, being on the inside of a tree's energy, and it's funny with that, because that is such a stuck, like, still, not stuck, but, like, still, you know, can't move mountains kind of literal energy. Like, trees don't really fucking migrate. They've been around and they've seen a lot, which is also why these, amber or Palo Santo are so useful. And so such helpful tools. There we go. That is the perfect phrasing. And it was just kind of like zooming. And the interesting thing about that is, despite its stillness, the oldest trees communicate with all of the land, despite its, single position, despite its stillness, it has such an emotional maturity, and very literally, like, its root system is so integral that all of the plants around it communicate with it. It helps nourish them, it helps them thrive, blocks the sunlight, etc., etc. Like, it builds a community from that within the network of plants around it. Very literally, scientifically, look it up. And again, that's kind of like the antithetical irony of all of this is, we're all ramped up for summer, or like ramped up for, change and decisions, and gotta make this and da-da-da-da, or gotta do this, or gotta find this, or whatever. God, if like existence was just ads, and it really is. Like, I notice more and more how much commercials like fucking hurt my root. And as much as we want to be active about it, we're forgetting to be receptive. And we sort of dishonor the natural inclination of feminine energy within us when we think that only action is valuable. Not all, but only action is valuable. And it's an energy of like, the Taurian nature is like, how is it that you find peace? And everything else is just like, there is no peace, there's chaos. Or, but you need this for peace. But are you peaceful enough? But da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's just kind of like rapid fire. But it's asking us to, like, that energy was like, it's going to be fine. You can create anything in that. But also look at the technicolor reality of like, being still inside the nervous system of a tree, and how much that offers, even though that's not what we are seeing and acknowledging as offering from us in the world. I know that makes sense. I hope that resonates for whoever's listening. And so I digress. Continue on. Bottom of the deck is the Ace of Swords, which is so interesting because I've said integrity like 2 or 3 times already. And the Ace of Swords is very much an upright spine integrity to me. It is the alchemy of that energy. It is a smooth path. It is, bioelectric conductor. It's very much a connection point, an integral connection point, a direct connection point, and uprightness. The opposite of fucking jellyfish. It's very much like, trust what you know. And what you know is often what you feel too. It's not just what we read in books. Like, I don't need to I haven't needed to know you were cheating to know you were cheating. I haven't needed to see messages to know you're talking shit. I haven't needed to, because the innate natural feeling is very much part of that reality of energy and what we can do with that, and that can work in many, many ways. The more familiar we get with the energy that works inside of us elementally. But the Ace of Swords is fucking trust what you know. Trust what you know. Have faith in yourself. And God, like, have faith in you. And in a very real way, somebody recently, I was just like, something about faith. And they were like, you sound really religious. And I couldn't help but laugh. But also because the idea of having faith in yourself and not something outside of you is very sacrilegious. in what we know as religion today via like King James Bible and all of those appropriations. So, you know, take that for what you want. But honestly, like, it's interesting how the world has demonized, like, having faith in yourself in the past. Now I feel like it's a different kind of demonization, really. You know, different face, different mask, but same root cause of ugliness in the world. And beauty. We just got to get back to that. No big. But, so that's the mood. So keep that with you. Keep that in your back pocket. Keep that on you. Keep that sword on you. But that does not mean that you always have to draw it. There's also a key point in, like, swords energy, especially, like, the higher suit cards, is, like, you can be a warrior without fighting, or without having to constantly fight. And that's often, you know, the most fucking intimidating people are the ones that are like, yo, are you sure you want to go? Like, let's fucking do this. And that aren't bravado. And I feel like that's very much an energy that will come around, especially within Shadow Period, is just because of this, you know, ironic, antithetical discomfort. We will see a lot of people acting out and projecting that discomfort. Like acting out because they're uncomfortable inside and they would rather find something to blame than fucking deal with it. Or, you know, or what have you. Maybe they just don't understand it. Maybe, you know, things haven't become fully clear for them yet. And that is fine. We are all on our journey. Have patience. Do not be stubborn. Do not be judgmental. Nobody is better than anybody, no matter where they are on their healing path. And if you do not find empathy in a situation, then, like, take that back and roll with it. And that's part of your journey, not a part of judging anybody else's. That is absolutely a sign that you still have work to do. And I think about that often. Okay, back to Death is the first card. Ace of Wands, Ten of Swords, which 100%, like I said, Taurus and 10 degrees, or New Moon in Taurus and 10 degrees is very much like this new step, or like this new, like it's the tens, it's this new completion. Only we obviously know that there's so much more to come. There's multiple decans, but it's sort of like this fresh new journey, which is where this is going. Despite the scariness behind the Death card, it is very much about the red sun, new sunrises. It's kind of like revolutionary, really. And I think that this shadow period will speak to, and this eclipse will shed light upon some shadows, very literally, so that we can put them to rest. This is very much, God, I want to say like afterlife, but it's like ghosts of you, like ghosts of your past. Or, you know, maybe you're having more intimate encounters with other realms. Who knows? However it's showing up for you. But for everybody, it's going to show up within you. Within, you know, whatever it is that you deem your hidden or your shame or your guilt or shadow side or whatever. Whatever needs working on. I feel like if we do not put this sword away safely and just trust it for its uprightness, i.e. not use it, not lash out, we'll end up fucking eating that. We'll end up sort of cutting ourselves on our own blade. And I say that because something about this is eating its own sword. I think there's potential to get lost in this as well, because we've got some some energy coming for us. But I think the Ace of Wands, especially inverted, is you will not get lost if you follow your own light, which is very much that hermit energy. And that's not necessarily about being alone or isolation, but it is about utilizing this knowledge and utilizing this knowledge in equal measures and not for show, for truth. Damn. That's good. Otherwise, performative aspect of shit will never get you anywhere. And will leave you very empty and very wounded. The Ten of Swords, inverted, for the very last card. There's a lot to be said about this card, but ultimately, it is a card of healing. Because when you bleed, you purge, you clarify, you purify, you know, whether it be fucking menstruation or fucking fire cupping or, you know, the many methods that we can pursue safely. Wow, this is very literally your horned entity, or maybe the horned entity of the world. And it's sort of a mythology, a story in the air. And we're going to, and maybe it's you. Maybe it's you. Maybe it's the mythology of the world. Who knows? Maybe it's your shadow self or what have you. What death is actually cutting down or bowing to. You don't have to bow to honor, nor do you have to cut down. You don't have to destroy. You just have to acknowledge. I feel like people so often think healing is never again. And it's like, no, that just means you have more tools. Like, it's not that, you know, my practice or my lifestyle, you know, saved me from depression and I'll never feel it again. No, I just have more tools to be able to deal with it and also recognize, like, what it came for. Or like just what's going on when it, like, almost like I can smell it in the air. Like, and I know when it's coming, even if it's not arrived. And also how to deal. And that is very much a reconciling with shadow side. Like, it's dealing with my horned one. Whether that be internally or externally, you know, like, we're all constantly reconciling with the shadows of the world. We're all constantly reconciling with, like, many a dark side. But it's spirits. We give it power with fear. We give it power with guilt. We give it power with shame. And and beyond spiritual, it's just fucking physics. Like molecules attract like molecules. And if you want to be fertile ground for negative or positive, then you maintain that charge, maintain that frequency or what have you. And on a very atomic level, it creates memory and familiarity, just like I was talking with fucking trees and its nervous system. And it's just like, hey, like, don't I know you from somewhere? And in actuality, it's like a deep trauma response or a deep, like, a deep disliking of yourself. I mean, that's also baseline why people end up in some toxic relationships, is there's something in here that they haven't done ABC with and sort of continue that cycle. Or they're like, why do I keep attracting? Da 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 da. Like, because you haven't dealt with this, and like molecules attract like molecules. So very literally, like, the stimulus response neurologically is like, don't I know you? This is familiar. This is safe. And it's not. And it's not. And that's maybe the very new story that we have to begin to tell ourselves, because we know about our inner truth. And even if we think we do not know, I promise you, your body is telling you. And I've had this conversation with many people. It's like, why do I get so, ABC, anxiety and symptom around so-and-so? And it's like, because your body's telling you that this is not comfortable. Like, there's a reason I've been nauseous around certain people. There's a reason we all have. And rather than blame yourself, ask your body why. And do you see how that does not blame you, also does not blame the other person, but does reconcile the root of the issue? I hope that fucking makes sense. It makes perfect sense to me. Okay, let's move on and draw some numbers. God, this Ten of Swords is really fucking great. I've never seen it like this. There's a whole ass entity. And on many legs, and maybe that's where we fall again with these mythologies. Like I said, it's not about anybody else. Like, again, that example, I wasn't creating blame for myself or for said other whatever on situation, party, whatever it is for you. So perhaps maybe that is a really balancing, grounding way to embrace confrontation or conflict, whether it be internal or external. This new moon, this season, this retrograde coming up, and throughout this shadow period, before and after. One card fell out already. I'm gonna keep it because you're always a pleasant surprise. Alright, just like we did last time, take a deep breath in and out, all that jazz. Okay. Take a deep breath in and exhale a rising shadow card. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Rising shadow card. Take a deep breath in and exhale. Interesting. Do not take offense to the idea of like stepping back. It is not that you are not trusted or good or whatever. To just ask to be more observational. Okay, let me break this down. My root felt very locked. My left foot was tingling, which 100% just makes me, or like came to me as ignoring emotions in favor of logic, or forsaking emotions for sake of logic, is blocking up energy flow. It was almost like all of this was just blocked, and I just felt tension here. And maybe that's because I'm like that energy was trying to root down and trying to ground and trying to be like, I'm a tree. But forcefully so. And almost just like it's just, I don't know, whether it's frustration, whether it's force, whether it's type bubble kind of vibe. I mean, very literally, type mulagala banda. And rather than what my hands wanted to do last time, which is kind of like as above, so below come together, or like holding hands, just kind of wanted to step back, but at the same time was fully aware of like will to live, or will to do. Maybe holding on to that sort of, rather, again, holding on to that, like, collect your thoughts before you share them. Collect your feelings before you blame them or express them or whatever. Collect your ideas and see how many great ones you have to create with. You don't have to force it. It can happen naturally. And you can counter type butthole with loose butthole. Okay. Queen of Spades with the Ace of Swords, bottom of the deck. And the Queen of Spades I believe this character can trust themselves to know that they have all that they need. However, I'm reading that there's perhaps some anxious energy about needing more and like not having everything that you need. But when we recognize that we have all that we need, we are so much more apt to create and so much more apt to put out something worthwhile into the world. Whether that be, I mean, and like that means baseline. Like that means so much more than like, you know, having enough money to donate or money to buy your friend lunch or whatever, money to spend namelessly. Very much that means like you give such better hugs when you start with love within yourself. And that is having all that you need and knowing that you, and like being able to create in the world, being able to create a little bit more of that same compassion in the world. So that concept and that principle can be applied for just about frickin' everything. King of Wands, 10 of Hearts, 5 of Diamonds. Ooh. Fire, water, earth. Again, the atmosphere is asking for integration, even if it's not showing up here. And that's perhaps, you know, where we find ourselves in the difficult situation of having to remind ourselves that we have these resources to be able to do that. Like, if anything, help the earth fucking integrate information and deal with this humidity by sending that energy back to the ground. God. And that doesn't necessarily have to be with speech, but that can be with utterance. And that can also be just with touch or idea or intention. I feel like the King of Wands has a very laborious task. I feel like it also looks like it will take longer than it does, and maybe that's perhaps for this being the beginning, and like I said earlier, like it's only at 10 degrees and there's so much more to anticipate. Let's not look too far off into the future and lose sight of the lining of where we are now, because that only creates more static and imbalance. Like if you were Jupiter and you were spinning that fast, you'd have to focus on your center, or you'd sure as fuck lose your jam. And I think that's part of what's going on. As well as all of these like fiery planets in Pisces with like what's going on in the sky. I feel like this is again taking all of that heat and turning it inward. There are ways to breathe to cool down your body, especially in situations of excessive heat. Can be scary, but don't panic. Gosh, it's like, it's so intense and then it sort of like levels. But I don't think it's a painless leveling. It's sort of like slap across the face change, and then like everything comes out. And that'll all be fine, and like that'll be all made peace with, and that'll all be like what's meant to be, because we'll find with this Ten of Hearts, like full circle, and where that energy again can start to give back. Where do we find reciprocity? Which keeps coming up. But that's what makes fucking alternating current, is the reciprocity between the fucking circuits. And I think now's a really good time. We're very literally like rewiring our heartstrings and our brain strings on a very literal level. You'll meet yourself in the middle. The Ten of Hearts is, I think, very much about the kind of energy you want to move forward with. Regardless of the task, regardless of the immensity, regardless of the outcome. Again, trust what you know. Trust what you know. Like, intake that heat, cool it down, spit it out, all that jazz. There's a lot of physical aspects to this, which is also very interesting, given the Taurian nature of where that corresponds on your body, and ultimately where the root of that is. Like, a lot of Taurian shit is going to be like throat and larynx and what have you, but I can't get over that feeling I had in my root, and that's very much like, are we speaking our truth, or are we regurgitating, things we've heard before, information we've heard before, in a very real way? Maybe this death card is like treating yourself like a child again, and cutting down that mythology and cutting down the mythology of what it is to be where you are now. I don't know. There's a lot to be said. There's a lot to be said. And there's a lot of ways to refine grounding amidst all of it. And the heat in your own way, in a non-consumptive way. And that isn't another fucking cup of some fancy something or other. But it is very much learning how to work with the blocks of breath in your body. Learning how to breathe with the elements, learning how to circulate that information. There's very literally a practice called Tattva Shuddhi that you can pretty much divine on your shadow and understand what elements in your body are in excess or in need of a little bit more attention or whatever, based on your shadow. So shit, the sun's out, take a look and see what you see and why, and what that can tell you about the inside of you. Also breathe through your nose, because it's a very grounding breath, and I feel like I say that to people all the time, but ideally you're supposed to breathe through your nose and not through your mouth, and blah blah blah, neurological cells in your nostrils, more nitrous oxide production, better oxygenation of your cells, yada yada yada. But very literally, you can feel your body kind of sink into the earth and focus on relaxing the root chakra. I don't know, that's all just like what happened to me during this. So I hope any of that helps. And I hope that this is a grand healing time and that shit doesn't kick our ass too hard. I gotta roll. But until then, party on. And I'll see you next time. God, before I forget, there was a card that fell and I didn't flip. 8 of Spades. And that just reiterates all of my points, really. And, like, the reciprocity and the cycling of information and, like, do away with this kind of energy so that you can find yourself. And, again, utilizing this kind of energy. Yeah, it just reiterates everything that I've said. But I did not want you to think that I forgot. Although I did, but I came back for it. Yeah, anyway, until next time.